Hello, hello, our friends. I believe we are live.
Here we are.
My name is Jennifer Tom,
And I'm Darlene Rample.
and we are late today.
We are.
We want to acknowledge that we are late. We had all the intention to be here at 12:15. However, it just didn't work. And Deli, do you want to say something?
Yeah, we're kind of. So this is a good time to take a deep breath. And we were very busy, so now we are here to be present with you. So sorry. Yeah, again, we apologize for being late, but we are here now.
And of all the days to be late is when we have a guest. Like it's the worst. However, our guest is so gracious. She stayed on, and because she's committed to sharing stories. It's a new month, darling. It's March.
Yes.
Oh, and as we were getting ready for this, we said, "What's our intention for March?" And I am excited because we just finished the thing in February about connecting with ourselves and others. And this month, the theme is sharing stories that heal. And we share our stories, we share with you, friends, about lessons learned from life and loss. And this month, we'll be bringing our guests to share their stories because I believe stories are powerful.
Yes.
What do you think, Dana? Is that a good thing?
That is how we heal, right? That's how we find our voice. And to have somebody who listens with hearts, hearts with ears, we always say. But yeah, telling stories is part of our healing process. And so yeah, I love hearing stories and having people share their stories.
Yeah, and so today it's exciting. If you missed us because of our time, please check out our podcast. We are recording this, it will be our podcast. You can listen in when we're traveling. So, without us talking anymore, we are going to bring our guest. Her name is Kelly. There she is. And
Hello,
Kelly,
hello.
welcome to Grief Talk. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us on a Wednesday during your lunch hour. And we just want to welcome, thank you for connecting with us, and we are looking forward to hearing your story and the amazing book. Oh, I better not sell everything. Kelly, you are
Well,
on.
thank both of you for this opportunity and for having me on as well. It's a very humbling experience, and it's a very, you shared how your theme last month was about connection, and I feel like I've been on this journey of connection. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm crossing over from connection into stories. So that's amazing. So thank you both for this opportunity.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Kelly, do you want to share with us your story? Because you are beautiful.
Well, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I think what you're talking about is sort of the sort of the birth of my newest book, Stories with
Yes.
Soul.
Yes.
It is a compilation of micro fiction stories, and they're little snippets of fiction that sort of mimic people's lives at their most vulnerable point in their life. So I have stories about grief. I have stories about loss. There's a few stories about joy. The reason that I wrote the book was I had really felt sort of isolated and alone as I was going through my own personal struggles. And I realized that there's such power when we sort of get to that vulnerable place and we're able to sort of share our own story. I think a lot of the times we sort of get stuck in our own heads where we think, who am I? What value does my story have? Who's going to listen? And I think the one thing that I've really come to learn is that our lived experience makes us that expert, regardless of what the topic is. And in sharing that, we have that ability to connect with somebody else.
Oh, I love that. I
That's
love that.
awesome.
What's the title of the book is?
Stories with Soul, and I actually have, so funnily enough, I'm in Saskatchewan, as I was telling Darlene, on a contract, and my husband actually had to mail me the book, so this is what it looks like. A little plug.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
stories
it.
with soul.
Stories with soul. How did you
Yes.
come up with that title? I love it. Stories with soul. I love it. Tell us.
So that came from, so probably about 1920, so oh my God, probably about 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. I was sitting in my office and I was having just a moment. It was, there was a lot of personal struggles that were in front, and I was sitting in my office just feeling overwhelmed, like there's no way that I'm ever going to get through what I was dealing with. And a colleague of mine actually came in, and she sat down and beside my desk, and she asked me to look at her shoes. And I was like, everybody knows that I like shoes, so it wasn't something that was out of the ordinary. But at that point in time, I was like, seriously, like I'm going through this, whatever this was, and here she is wanting me to look at her shoes. And so I did. I looked down, and then she lifted them up, and on the bottom inscribed was the word love. And so in that moment, I was like, huh, that's interesting. And it really spoke to me. It spoke to me on so many levels. And I wanted to know what the story was of the person who made those shoes. And so this idea of writing about um, sort of the lived experiences of people from the perspective of their shoes, because as a nurse, we're always taught, to walk in the shoes of somebody else. And so that in that moment, it all sort of made sense to me. So
Wow.
that's how I came up with that title. It's not very creative, but it's very poignant, I think, for that moment.
What a beautiful story. What a beautiful story. Walk. How could you? I didn't get that line. What did she say about
So
the?
walking someone else's shoes.
Yes,
Well,
I
yes.
love that.
Yeah.
That's exactly,
Yeah.
and that's what happens when we listen to people's stories, right?
That's right. That's right. There's this level of connection, I think, that that we have with our fellow humans. I think we assume that, you look, especially, when you're sort of comparing yourself sometimes to social media, you think that that person on that screen in that square, their life is perfect, but it very rarely is, right? That's just a highlight reel. And until you can sort of peel back those layers and really understand what it took for that person to get there, if their life is where they want it to be, or B, understand why they may be putting up this facade. And until we can really connect with that, we very rarely understand another person's perspective. And it's so important to be able to.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, everybody's experience is unique. Everybody's story is unique. But when we listen to them and when we can hear them, then we can engage with them and walk on their journey. Because you're right. Nobody can know what we're going through, but can listen and hear and connect with us.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it gives power to that vulnerability. We always think that vulnerability means weakness, when it 100% means the opposite. When you can be vulnerable, you empower yourself, and then you empower the next person to really connect with, oh my God, you're sharing this. Guess what happened to me as well, right? And it just becomes this snowball effect.
Yeah.
I love it, Kelly. Tell us about what came out for you after writing this book about stories of soul.
It's interesting. I almost feel like Stories with Soul was very much a therapeutic journey for me. Like I came up with stories of either situations that I've either heard on the news, or people that had in passing told me something, and it may or may not have been their truth, but I sort of imagined, okay, what would it have been like to experience that? And I was able to work through my own personal struggles, my own struggles with anxiety and depression through writing these stories. So it was very cathartic for me to write that book. And it was also, it's also very like humbling and freeing to actually release it out there into the world, because that is a very hard thing to do, especially when it does feel so personal to me.
Yeah, it's at another level of vulnerability, right?
It is 100%, 100. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing says vulnerability like having some like a creative work, and it doesn't really matter what the work is out there for people to, either to see, to criticize, to judge, right? And sort of
Yeah.
just have to let that go and be comfortable with where you are and what that means to you. And so it feels good.
I love it. We are looking forward to getting a copy of that book. Is
Yes,
is
please.
Do you want to share even not the whole book, a little bit, like one of the stories in the book? Because I just can't wait to get a hold of this book.
Oh my gosh. Now that you put me on the spot, I'm gonna have which story is the shortest that I could share here? Uh, Actually, there is one story that is my favorite, and I don't have a table of contents, so it's going to be interesting to see if I can find it. Um, okay,
I love
I'll actually read you the first one because this story actually really resonated with me.
it. Yeah.
So it begins, as she sat down and placed the aluminum foil pan on the blanket beside her, she allowed her bare feet to run across the warm, moist blades of the grass beneath her feet. She looked up at the cloudless sky and noticed how the vibrant shade of blue filled every corner of the heavens above. It appeared to her that on this particular day, the sky was bluer than she had ever noticed before. She saw lots of things lately, simple things. She leaned back, all the way back, closed her eyes, and slowly inhaled. She could smell the scent of lavender and mimosa as she was thankful for Mrs. Mulligan's butterfly garden, filled with its multiple hues of pink, red, and yellow wildflowers. Not only did that garden explode with color, but the scents from the competing flowers were enough to bring a smile to her face. As she laid in the middle of her backyard, the hot sun beating down on her face, she thought about all the little things that she would miss. The handwritten birthday cards written in crayon, cuddling on the sofa with her twin girls, her nose nuzzled in the nape of their necks, sipping a cup of hot ginger tea while watching the morning sun peek through the branches, and snuggling in her husband's arms on the bathroom floor after yet another painful sleepless night. The cancer had changed her. All the little things that most people took for granted daily were now a constant reminder of how precious life was. She hated that she was now at the point where she was referring to life in the past tense, but it is her reality. The doctors had given her 3 months left to live after the last round of chemotherapy, and each day was a blessing. She was thankful for this last. She was grateful to be able to say goodbye to all of the people that mattered. Cancer was a cold-hearted son of a bitch. Sorry for the swearing, but it had given her this time to pause. She had spent the morning writing the girls letters for each milestone that she knew she was going to miss, for each milestone that she was going to miss after all the firsts, the first dance, the first kiss, the first broken heart, and watching from the pew as her first daughter walked down the aisle. As she laid on her back in her backyard, she was ready to fill the afternoon sky with as many gratitude bubbles that her tired body could allow. She dipped a tiny plastic pink wand into the soapy mixture and raised the baton to her lips. She uttered a big thank you and blew.
Wow. Deep. Thank you, Kelly. That is so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Seriously, we want all our friends, all our people to get a hold of your book. So how can
Yeah.
we get your book, Kelly?
So it's available on Amazon, .com.ca. It's also available at Chapters Indigo by special order. So you just have to go in and ask for Stories with Soul by Kelly Marisa, and they will order it for you. If you live in Calgary, or if you're in Calgary, it's available from Pages, which is in Kensington. And then in Toronto, because of course, I'm from Toronto, I had to have a local bookstore there as well. So Queen's Books in Toronto. But the two biggest, I would say, would be Chapters Indigo and Amazon.
I love it, Kelly. I love it. And we could not ask for a better guest as we start this month with stories that heal. And look at our author here, Kelly, who has written Stories with Soul. I love it. We
Well,
just want
thank
to
you.
thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us your passion of writing and also sharing about Stories with Soul book. I think Deli, do you have something to add?
Amazing story, great writing. It just made you feel like you were in the grass looking up, and it's amazing how even those when we read stories, how that brings out our own emotion and how we can connect with stories, and I just love how that brings healing, right? When you connect with a story and it just resonates with you, and then it reflects. I love those. So thank you so much for writing the book, and we look forward to reading it.
Yes, we look
Thank you.
forward, and thank you for your time and your patience. Even though our day is not going as we hope, we
That's
did
okay.
it. We did it,
We did it.
and before the end of the month, we are going to write the book. This is our commitment, Dali. We're going to read the book, and we are bringing you back with questions.
No problem. No problem.
We can do this. So, for our listeners, please grab the book, Soul Stories and Soul by Kelly, and we'll put all our information on our website. And we really appreciate you, and thank you for sharing the stories.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you as well, and thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
Awesome.
Until next Wednesday, Grief Talk. Have an awesome week.
Thank you.